Hello, everyone, and welcome to Connections for Life. I'm Ted Pete.
Chad Kubo, hey.
Why are you so big?
Standing on the desk.
Oh, I wish he would have fell and hurt himself.
Oh my God!
badly.
If you fell into that donut, it would be the greatest thing ever. I'm Joe Surratt, everybody. Hello. Well, let's start off where we always start off, boys. How was your weekend?
It's good. I've just been preparing for my Columbus Day and Indigenous People Day of today. No, it was a good weekend. They always seem too short. I blink my eyes and then I'm back at work.
That's because you get drunk on Friday. You don't wake up till Sunday.
Hey, everybody's a roll.
But I knew he was going to say that when you asked that question, Joe, and I'm like, this is Chad's answer. Everybody has a role. Knew that. Yeah. How about you, Joe? What'd you do this weekend? Soccer?
Yeah, soccer. We tied again. Like we've I think we're
was it 2-2?
Everybody wins.
Yeah, no, 4-4. We're 0-4, I think, this year. Yeah. So we're
real?
It is real. Yeah.
Oh,
and I'm the coach, and I'm just like, you can't nudge one over the line, huh? We had it. We had him covered. We had him covered this week, and we collapsed in the final minutes.
You haven't lost yet.
Try again. Yeah, we're undefeated. We're also not feated. Is that a word? I don't know. But yeah, no, it was a good weekend. It was a nice weekend. The weather was beautiful up here, and Saturday was like 78 degrees and no clouds. Rained a little bit in the afternoon, but got out with a buddy of mine, had some dinner, so it was a good weekend.
That's cool. How about you, Teddy?
Nice.
How about you? What'd you do, Teddy? Basketball?
No, that's this weekend. I went. My wife and I did some estate sailing.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm like an 80-year-old lady. Oh, I love it so much. I'm like, there's an estate sale 3 miles from our house. Let's go.
I went to one of those once with my 3 kids, and I was like, look,
and you tried to leave them there?
Touch anything. That was gone in milliseconds. They were
Dad, I want this.
Scattered.
Show it to me. Can I have this too? Yeah.
We ended up leaving with nothing, but yeah, it was
Well, as you guys know, they're working on the front patio that we're putting in at the new house here. So they were there doing that all day Saturday. So my wife and I just left.
That's awesome.
Smart.
Yeah, and then my quarterback broke his
yes, I'd like to talk about that. We want to double down on our bet, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw him waving everybody on his way out. That's the only picture I saw.
Look, you even took his jerseys down. No, I'm just kidding. I know you moved it down.
Actually, I got a new one to hang up. I got a new one. It came in the mail.
Is it an Andy Dalton jersey? A new Andy Dalton jersey? You got in the mail?
Listen, maybe the Red Rocket can come in and save the season or something for us.
Oh boy.
That was a pretty gruesome injury. Dak's not watching, but if you are, Dak, from your hospital room, I hope you're getting better, man. That was
I'm praying for you, buddy. Praying for you.
You never know. You never know who tunes in. Maybe he's a big natural gas fan.
Maybe
I don't think he's a driver.
What'd you do this weekend?
I don't know.
Watch my favorite Upsco guys.
Hashtag Dak Prescott. We're gonna add him into this week's link and see if it shows up in his feed. But that's enough about us. We have a pretty cool guest, Teddy. You want to talk about?
This is one of my favorites. Got to meet Mike. Was actually one of the first guys I ever met in my role at Upsco. I met with him before I actually worked for the company. Surprisingly,
give him a last name or just Mike?
Mike Eastman, who is the former VP
Mike
of gas measurement at Avant Grid. He has more hobbies than you could ever imagine. When you guys will hear about him at length.
Bowling.
Yeah, but he's amazing at all of them.
That's the thing. Nothing this guy does average.
He's elite.
Nothing. Like he is in the top 3% of everything he ever attempts to do.
He's definitely our longest interview.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. He had a lot to say. He had a lot of good stuff to say.
It was awesome. The thing is, we could have talked to him for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
We might have to do a part 2.
Well, we say that.
So we're gonna have to do that eventually here as we start to run out of people.
Yeah, I don't think after 26 weeks, I don't think we've run out of people in the industry.
No.
I think we still have a couple more to go.
Yeah, like 7. But, we got 7 weeks left, and they're going to cancel.
7 weeks left. Let's get them on, huh?
All right. So without further ado, Mike Eastman. Hello, Mike, and welcome to Connections for Life. We really appreciate you joining us here today.
Good morning, gentlemen. Always a pleasure.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Well, we'll jump right in. Get rid of the formalities. We kind of will cover those in the intros and outros. But Mike, for those of our audience members that have not watched the show before or have never met Mike Eastman, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you started in the gas industry, and how it all ended?
Sure. So, Mike Eastman, I have a associate's degree in engineering science. I went to SUNY Broome. graduated, needed a job to earn money in order to continue my education. So I took a job in gas measurement at New York State Electric and Gas in 1980. I'd spent 5 years testing supplier witness testing at the purchase stations and calibrating commercial industrial gas meters throughout the state for NYSEG. In 1985, I moved to Horseheads. I was the engineer in Horseheads from 85 to 91, doing, obviously all gas projects and corrosion work and overseeing an engineering group. Then in 91, I transferred, I started going to school nights in 86. I drive back and forth between Horseheads and Binghamton 2 nights a week. Took me six years to get my bachelor's degree. About
Did
a
you say
month
66 years, Mike, or just
That's the trajectory Chad's on. 66.
that's around that?
Yeah.
Took me 6 years. About a month after I got my degree, I got transferred from Elmira to Binghamton. Can you believe that?
Congratulations.
So then, so I worked in the corporate gas department, working on standardizing manuals and procedures. And NYSEG had 13 separate office areas. My job was to try to make them all run as one. The manuals were not very good in those days. Some sections, like the welding section, said, to be issued at a later date. It was dated 1953. So
Wow.
we did
Eventually, it should have just said eventually on the bottom, right?
we did a lot of work on the manuals and putting things together. And then there were a lot of towns that around adjacent to the NYSEG territory that never had gas. And there were a lot of work order folders where people had run estimates to try to run gas to those towns, and they were never economic. So I started looking into all those folders and all those towns and see if I couldn't figure out a way to expand and grow and offer gas to more customers. And I came up with an idea. It's called an alliance approach, where just selected purchase station people, construction contractors, mapping. We developed an alliance approach and said, if I could dictate the price that could make these towns economic, would you be willing to build them or do your work, your part of the job for this amount of money, so I could make it economic and go? And we identified 75 towns within 5 miles of interstate pipelines, and over 3 or 4 year period, we piped approximately 50 of those. And then, Maritimes and Northeast and Portland Natural Gas, we're going to run a pipeline from Canada to Boston. Most of the communities were against the projects, didn't want the pipes in their backyard. So I said, well, if someone were to offer distribution service to those communities along the way, maybe the communities would support those pipelines projects. So I wrote a short business plan and asked if I could go to Maine, try to build distribution in Maine. So NYSEG executives let me go. Worked 1.5 years in Maine, partnered with Central Maine Power and a bunch of other companies, an alliance approach, and proposed to pipe about 30 or 40 towns in the state of Maine. So was there for 1.5 years, started Maine Natural Gas. That's how Maine Natural Gas began. And I went to Vermont for 1 year. And
Mike, I just want to interject. I have one call. When was that? What years was that, do you think?
It was around 1995, 96.
I started my career in this industry, believe it or not, working on Maritimes project, doing concrete revetment quality control on the project, on the portion that went out in the ocean and through the rivers. It brought back a lot of memories to me. So that's pretty neat. That's funny. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It was just interesting.
How it's all connected, the small
so strange
natural gas community.
So weird.
So then I moved over to Vermont for 1 year and worked on a project trying to bring gas from Albany, New York to Bennington to Rutland. All the ski areas were large. Biggest air quality issue with diesel air compression, so they wanted gas, and so worked on a project there. Came back to Binghamton around 99, and there wasn't a lot going on, and so I decided to leave NYSEG and go to work for Uponor Eldel out of Oklahoma. And I thought, as a business manager development for gas products, materials, I thought 25% of all these expansion projects were material cost. And I thought if I could learn a little bit about materials someday, maybe I'd be worth more to someone else having a view of
Yeah.
how the materials side works. So
Sure.
I went to work for Uponor in 99. 2001, I received a call, asked if I'd like to come back to NYSEG because they wanted to try to purchase some other gas companies. So I came back, and we friendly merged with Rochester Gas and Electric. And then we also friendly merged with Berkshire Gas, Southern Connecticut Natural Gas, Connecticut Natural Gas. We had also friendly merged with Central Maine Power. And we also helped out. There's some safety issues with propane air system in New Hampshire. So we picked that up and tried to begin improving that system. So in around 2003, I went to Rochester to work on combining the NYSEG gas business and the Rochester gas business to try to run them as one. And, it continued on in 2008, Iberdrola, Spanish Iberdrola, purchased all of those companies. 2010, we sold the Connecticut gas companies off to United Illuminating. And then in 2016, we
Brought
purchased
them right
the
back.
company back.
Thank you.
So in around 2016, I started working on, okay, how do we put Connecticut, Southern, Berkshire, Maine, NYSEG, and RG&E together and try to run them as one. So
When did you become the vice president of that side of it? Around what year was that?
It was 2001 when I came.
Wow.
when I
So you had your
originally came
hands,
back.
you literally had your hands in all of that. That sounds very overwhelming, to
Yeah,
say
no
the
doubt.
least.
I
It's
can
a-
barely get up to do this show every week.
I can barely manage myself.
Yeah, that's true. I can vouch for that. He barely can manage himself.
So-
But no, it's crazy.
Wow. It's just amazing. Absolutely amazing, that the whole story. I know, you started to get towards the part of the latter part of your career and taking all those companies and making them essentially one. And that means you took, I believe you took 6 companies, 6 utilities and over 1 million customers and tried to get them all on one platform as you would. And man, that's a lot of different cultures. What's it take to kind of take those 6 companies and put them together and try and get them all on the same page? Because we watch it every day in the utility industry, and it's not always that successul.
Yeah.
A really smart person, I think,
Yeah.
is the answer. Like,
Yeah.
seriously.
Plus a little luck, right, Mike?
I wouldn't, I think I had quite a few years with trying, combining NYSEG gas and Rochester gas. So that because of everything was in the same state and the same rules and similar processes, that helped me learn, things that worked and things that didn't work so well, so that when we combined with the Connecticut companies, I had a pretty good idea on how to go about that. But I think, to me, I could summarize it by saying, you have to build trust. And what I did is put everybody together. There was a director of each business in each state. So we brought all of the supervisors and managers and directors together and in one location. And we had the directors go over and give a background of their company. So we had a format that we followed, so we brought everybody up to speed. So everyone knew the background and history of Maine, Berkshire, Southern, Connecticut, NYSEG, Rochester, try to get everybody on the same baseline. And then we began to talk about the differences in the regulatory requirements, and then what companies were doing as strategies. And then we together developed common ideas that we were all going to go after and establish common goals, and tried to begin, moving all of the companies to the extent that you could. There's some differences in the rate cases and the regulatory.
I can't imagine.
Oversight.
Sounds riveting too.
And so we began to focus on things like, leak repair, leak response, third-party damage, replacing cast iron, quality assurance items, training. So basically we selected about 10 major focus areas, and then, all of us put business plans together to try to accomplish the same thing. Manuals were big, trying to get all of the manuals so that they were very, up to date and similar as we could, was a big part of it. Yeah, it starts out right. You have to have the base books everybody learns
Sure.
from, reads from.
Yeah.
So you
Train-
updated them from 1953 then?
We've been a lot of people involved in quite a few iterations, but I always also tried to, one big thing when I first went to Rochester, everyone thought, well, he's from NYSEG, so now we're going to be forced to do everything NYSEG's way. And
Sure.
I never did that. I said it doesn't really matter which company and which way, it's what is best.
Sure.
And let's all agree to decide what is the best practice, and we'll go forward. So wherever the idea came from, whomever, a lot of the ideas came from regulators, state, when the state would come in and do daily inspections, they would have ideas on how
Sure.
we could or should improve. So we had vendors, material suppliers, anybody who had thoughts or ideas or suggestions on how we could improve. We tried to keep an open book and listen, tried to encourage all of our employees to, if they saw things that were wrong or broken, that weren't right, please let us know. So we made a big list of all of the things that we thought were wrong. We have a list of about 75 items. We prioritized those and then started to work down through those and try to
Pretty neat.
improve. And then I would go around each year to every office, and it took 29 stops. I would go and speak with all of the field employees so that the gas fitter, also knew what our plans were, what our agendas were, what we were working on, and also try to get, an open communication dialogue so that they would send along more items that they thought we could do.
You actually worked, Ted's mom, I believe, worked for you or with you or one or the other. Am I
Yeah.
right?
She did work for him. But and I'll tell you, before Mike says anything on that, when he talks about going around, being the guy who services upstate for the last 2 years, and I'm sure Joe could attest to it because he worked upstate prior for UPSCO's territory, but having been to all 29 of those locations between RG&E and NYSEG, there's literally not a bad word said about Mike Eastman, and they speak to that yearly
That's
that
awesome.
yearly visit
Check-in.
every time, and that was actually one of the things that I incorporated when I took over the territory that day. I think you talked about it at the lunch where we met at, you go and do that. And I called it my tour de world of upstate New York. I went to every single NYSEG or RG&E gas division just to introduce myself, because if he's doing it, why shouldn't their salesmen do it?
I think the other thing there too is that it's really easy, Mike, to be in a an executive level position and tell everybody how they should be, right? And I think that you get a lot of pushback. He doesn't know. He's not on the street. He doesn't understand our trials and tribulations and our problems. And getting down on that level and being able to speak with folks and let them know that the reasons that you're making the decisions is because you care and you want to hear what they have to say and make them a part of the conversation. It makes the integration pieces so much, I wouldn't say easier, but a little bit easier probably for people to swallow when they feel like they have a voice, and then they can talk directly to an executive and give those concerns. So,
so as you guys are all aware, and a lot of you are involved in a lot of different things in sports, and the greatest, if you ask what are the common items that allow teams to really perform well, and if you think about football, baseball, things like that, and you ask kids that play on those teams, it really comes down, I think, 3 items. It's trust, it's pride, and it's enjoyment. If you trust the leaders and what they're doing, if you have pride in what you're doing, I tried to say, let's be the best. Let's lead every performance measure that we are asked to achieve. Let's figure out a way to see if we can't lead, because I saw the industry, lots of things that the industry would do, pretty much the items that needed to be done in order to accomplish the regulatory responsibility. Right. But I thought you could do a lot. I put them as the minimum. I found that you could do a lot more than the minimum, still make everything work, still make it economic. It could be better. You could improve. I wanted to be the leader in every performance measure that I was asked to perform at. So it comes back to, do you trust what you're doing? Do you trust the leadership? Do you have pride in what you're doing each day when you come through the door? And is it enjoyable? If the leaders, are always mad at you and hollering at you,
Right.
right? I mean, that's no fun. And whereas if you're enjoying what you're doing, and so I tried to, I used you spoke earlier about Chuck Lang, and I spent some time with Chuck Lang when I was with Uponor, and Upsco was a distributor for Uponor, so I got to spend quite a lot of time with some of the salesmen and Dan and Chuck, and Chuck had a lot of good items that I think were world items, like sell yourself before you sell your product, make a friend before you need a friend,
Yep.
make everyone feel important. Those are some items, and so I tried to think about all the employees, the person in the ditch who doesn't get to see the leader ever or hardly know them, and I always felt like I would like to know the leader and what they're thinking. So as the vice president, I thought it was important. I each year, January 2nd, I would make my schedule to go to all those offices as my priority, because I felt that was a big responsibility of mine, to make sure that all the employees felt like they were being heard, or they knew me, they heard from me directly what we were trying to do and why, and ask questions. So
I think I'm amazed by how much Ted just wrote down, because you can tell when he gets excited about something somebody says, he continuously writes it down like we're not recording it and he can watch it again.
Yeah. He doesn't watch it ever again, so this is time. Yeah, obviously, Mike, like some really cool stuff, and I'm sure there's countless stories and favorite people and projects and everything that you've worked on. If you had to pick one or two of just the two projects that just stand out for you, what do you think those would be? The ones that you're really super proud of, or were the most fun?
Yeah, so I think I could summarize really quick, probably four, and I would say number one, starting Maine Natural Gas was a big deal to me. I mean, I originated the idea. There was no gas there. We didn't get permission to serve all of the state. The commission broke it up into 3 sections and gave Maine Natural Gas a piece, and gave Bangor Sempra a piece, and gave Bay State a piece. But just the fact that I had that idea to go do that and start that and bring gas to others, and I like the expansion.
You started a whole gas utility.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy, man. Like, if you think
I thought we were
it,
cool because we started a YouTube channel.
Yeah, my favorite thing is that we record this once a week. Yours is you created an entire gas utility. So that is a pretty cool one. So yeah, that was one. What's the next one?
Took a lot of people other than me. It was a lot of work, but a lot of others did a lot of work also.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
but it was your idea.
Yeah.
I don't get all the credit there. The takes everyone. It takes contractors. It takes vendors. It takes distributors.
Sure, of course.
Got to surround yourself with awesome people too. That's
Sure.
The second, I think there was a bad explosion in 1995 in Binghamton, and NYSEG still had a lot of cast iron, and there was the manual said in 1980. The manual said, we will replace all cast iron over a 40-year program. So starting in 1980, by 2020, NYSEG would have had all of its cast iron replaced. Well, this was about 1995, and nothing had been done. 15 years went by.
Wow.
with just talking about a 40-year plan. So I said, we need to do more to ramp that quicker, and because of the damage and the harm and the cost, I said, we could fix all this and have it replaced, and avoiding any other explosions could, potentially pay for most of the replacement. So we went on a pretty aggressive program, had all our cast iron replaced at NYSEG by 2011.
Wow. That's unreal.
In 2000, in 1994.
I like how you said, wait a minute. I like how you said a pretty aggressive program.
Yeah, like I have some customers that are still planned 30 more years out to
That was pretty good.
Nothing for
So
50
go ahead,
years.
Mike. I just thought that was funny.
The next
In,
60. Pretty
In
crazy.
1994, we purchased the Columbia, New York properties, which were Binghamton, Watkins, Glen Olean. They had a lot of cast iron, so we added that in. So we were able to replace all the cast iron that was on the former Columbia system, plus all at Nice Lake. When we merged with Rochester in 2003, they had a lot of cast iron, so we began the same program there. So in around 2014, all cast iron has been replaced at Rochester and NYSEG, and that is a big deal.
It really
opinion.
That was a 40-year project that you did in how quick?
31 or 34.
And we were able to keep the rates. We have some of the lowest rates. NYSEG and RG&E have some of the lowest gas rates, which there are other items that go into that bill other than replacing cast, but that's a big capital piece of it. Also, I think probably the biggest item I would say I think most proud of is I also came up with an idea. I called it Fix All Leaks on Purpose.
Yeah.
And that was around the same time the explosion was in Binghamton. And so I sat down and wrote out a cost benefit that showed that you could, if you were to fix all your leaks instead of just surveil them or resurveil them,
Right.
You could actually save money, and you could improve safety, and you could improve customer service. Obviously, if a person walks out of their house and they keep smelling a leak on their walk each day, and they turn it in and you don't fix it because it's a type 3, they wonder, are you really paying attention to what you're doing?
Right.
So by fixing all leaks and having no leaks, you also learn where your system was bad, where you should spend your capital money earlier, fix the worst sections first.
That's
That's
really
a
good.
neat way to look at it.
Yeah.
Mike, man.
It reduces unaccounted for gas. It improves safety. You don't have to resurveil them every year. So we had, when I left this year, we had less than, at the end of 2019, 5,000 miles of main and service at RG&E, about 5,000 miles of main and service at NYSEG. We had less than 25 leaks of all classes open.
That's
That's
crazy.
impossible. That seems unreal. Wow. That's impressive.
Honestly,
So I would say that, and when you start fixing all leaks and you believe that all of these things, it's economic, it improves safety, improves customer service, then you say, well, if that is so, then why do I only leak survey my system once every 3 years or once every 5 years? That's the minimum code requirement. So we also began leak surveying all mains and all services on an annual basis. So I conclude the program is called Find Them and Fix Them. We are on a mission. We are on a mission to find them as soon as we could and fix them as soon as we could.
Like you were playing,
incredible.
you were playing chess when it seems like a lot of utilities were playing checkers, to give an analogy, and that's something that just speaks volumes to your character, but to also the organization that you worked with for so many years, that you were presenting a business case and that they grabbed hold of it and ran with it. That's tremendous.
To give you that support,
exactly.
To give you the ability to do that. That's an
That's
incredible
unbelievable.
thing.
So
For those
not everyone was not everyone was encouraged. When I started doing it, I had a supervisor who threatened to stop work. He goes, "What are you doing? Why would you want to do all that? The codes don't require it, etc."
because it's sometimes you do the right thing, doing the right thing.
Be proactive instead of reactive as well. So, with that said, I'm interested because I got the privilege of reading a very special email that you sent out when you retired this year, listing some of the changes that you've seen in over the course of your career. But maybe you could just tell us what the biggest changes you saw in the industry from the beginning of your career until now. that would be awesome.
Yeah, okay. So I think, so you've read the note I read. I think some things that are the same, some things that are different. I think we've always had the responsibility to provide safe, reliable service.
Mm-hmm.
That was a requirement when I started. That's still a requirement today. When I began working, in 1980, there was a moratorium on natural gas throughout the United States. You could not hook up a new gas customer anywhere. There was a gas shortage. Today, we have so much gas.
Hard to even believe.
Yet we have a lot of, protests going on. Stop pipeline projects, stop the combustion of hydrocarbons, reduce
Fossil fuels.
CO2 emissions, global warming. So those people were begging for gas in the early days and there wasn't any. Today, we have all kinds of gas, but there is, obviously opposition regarding climate change. So I think, that's a big difference. When I began, there was little to no training. If you began as a new gas fitter, you would work with a person who'd been there a long time. The manuals weren't that good, so there wasn't a lot of literature or information to help you learn. If you were assigned a person who was a good teacher or a helper, you could learn a lot. If you were assigned someone who wasn't so good at helping, you may not learn a lot. So today the manuals are so much better. There was no operator qualification. Today there's, upwards of 80 operator qualification tasks you have to know, depending on what your job is and where you are and what your specialty is. But so the regulatory environment is much more strict. There's penalties. There's performance penalties if you don't achieve, all goals: leak repair, leak response, third-party damage, operator qualification audits. If you, in the past, if you were audited and something was wrong, you were given an opportunity to correct that. Today, you're just handed a penalty or a fine from doing that. So that's a big difference.
That resonates with what Mike Hickey had to say about.
I was going to say, Mike Hickey,
yeah,
said the same thing. Our interview from last week or this week, whatever week.
Whatever day it is.
He said the same thing. I mean, just when he started in the ditch and they learned through just attrition, right? Like, you learn from the guy who was there before you. There wasn't really this training and this process and this procedures and all these matrices and professional platforms that are put together for everybody now. And that's one thing that I know Howland Construction, spent a lot of time and energy and money on. And I know that the gas utilities, many have adopted that same philosophy, whereas training maybe 15, 20, even 30 years ago wasn't even that big of a deal. Training departments are absolutely massive for gas utilities these days, and all the OQ and all that goes around it. So interesting that two different sides of the industry with the same answer.
Well, two industry guys that walked the same time frame, but on different sides of the industry. One contractor, one utility. You guys were in the industry in the same time frame, but almost mirroring each other. And to watch how you come to the same point that's really cool.
It's pretty neat. It's nice to hear the same message from safety and training and how important it is for the industry.
Yeah, I think also one other. I was young and had black hair, and today I'm.
Wait, you had colored hair one time? I thought you were born like that.
Today you don't have to tell people that, Mike. You don't have to tell people that. That's why I keep wearing a hat every day. It's a little bit more. I
don't want to hear it. I think I'm the youngest in the call, and I probably have the second most white hair. I think you had another one.
Yeah. So Mike, you retired this year, and I know that was a little bit strange. You can tell us a little bit about that, but I think, now that we're in 2020 and you did retire, where do you see the future of the industry? I think that's especially given your past, you really must have some perspective on the future, I'd assume.
Yeah. So obviously retiring is a, big change. And to me, I wasn't able to go around my plan was to go around my last tour to all the offices, say goodbye to everyone that helped me and worked with me. And
That stinks.
along the way. So not being able to do that was a setback for me. And, I wrote a note to everyone, still try to communicate as Ted had referred to, shared that note with them. I just wanted to thank everyone and have an opportunity to say goodbye. I wasn't really able to do that. I think the future, the latest rate case, we were in for a rate case filing, and the latest rate case is requiring in New York gas companies to begin asking customers to convert to air source and ground source heating and cooling. We have performance measures to reduce the consumption of natural gas. There's talk about doing away with, natural gas by the year 2050, and from some regulatory perspectives. And, myself personally, I wrote a one-page analysis on what it would cost, in my opinion, if we convert every person to electric and take them off gas, and the rebuilding cost to rebuild all the electric generation, transmission, substations, distribution, all the appliances and equipment. And I just don't see how that's possible. The other thing is when all these customers are converting to electric, in New York State, like almost 60% of the power is produced, 50% of the power is produced by natural gas right now, gas turbines. And every time you take someone off the gas system and convert them to electric, that electricity has to come from somewhere, and it's not coming all from wind and solar. Only 3% of the power produced in New York is coming from wind and solar.
Only 3%.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we see these solar panels everywhere, and these
million windmills.
I built a couple windmills back in my trade day.
Not efficient.
So when you take gas at a gas turbine and produce power, the total cycle efficiency at best is only 50%. So then if you run that down through the system to the home and you heat your home with electricity, it's somewhere around 43% total cycle efficiency.
Wow.
But if I could take gas directly to the home, you can get 93% efficient out of furnaces. So you are getting half the efficiency and you're doubling the CO2. So I think it's an incorrect approach to how to continue to help reduce emissions. Natural gas has been a huge reason why the country's able to claim big reductions in emissions over time by going from coal to gas and off of oil to heavier hydrocarbons. So I think the future, like, we have to have a better energy policy than what we have. For each state or local place to decide what they want or what they don't want, and whether they have the science right or not right, we need a bigger strategy,
Big picture,
all-inclusive strategy. I do not see, how this all works without the use of natural gas in play here. Not every state is adopting the strict rules that California and New York do. Other states are begging for gas, and
California can't even keep electricity on right now.
It's wild.
yeah.
With the rolling blackouts and stuff, they don't even have a grid that's strong enough to support the current infrastructure, let alone trying to take things off of a gas system and put that on
I think one of the other things, Joe, we sat through not a presentation, but we were introduced to a product. I don't know how many legs it's grown, but with one of our utilities that's invested a ton in actually producing electricity at the side of the house with natural gas instead of it going to a turbine. That's something I think that's going to come and come on strong here, hopefully within the next 5 to 10
years. It transitions it from gas to into electric supply. It's pretty
in a little box.
It's pretty interesting stuff. Yeah. Chad and I don't know very much about it.
No, that was the max of my knowledge.
Another item I think is very big in here is there is a huge difference today in the number of employees that are available and working at the utilities versus when I began. I mean, the big reduction in the staff, and a lot more work being done by the employees that are there. And there's a difference, in the level of, there's a big gap in a number of years where a lot of people haven't been hired, and there are a lot of people retiring.
That's an industry problem. We talk about this a lot. We also talk about when you go into somebody's service center and there's 150 lockers in there and there's 7 guys that work there.
Yeah.
Right.
That just shows you that reduction. It's kind of crazy.
So I think, today you ask, what do I see as the differences? The work is increasing. The amount of work that has to be done is continuing to increase. The requirements and training and rules and guidelines are more detailed than they ever were. The knowledge that you need to perform today is much more than it was years ago, and there are a lot fewer, employees to do that. I think that is an issue that is overlooked. I think training and performance and making sure you're doing everything accurately is also a big responsibility, going forward. So you guys add a lot when I know you always come in and help us, like every year when we do all of our plastic fusion training, and you come in and show the new materials that you have, and meet with people, and you're around talking, showing. I mean, that's a big deal. You have a lot of skills, a lot of information that the employee doesn't know or get to see. So I think there's a lot of value to, in your interaction with utilities. It can add a lot of value and does add a lot of value. And that's a big part of the education that I think is important going forward also.
Well, Mike, I think we could sit here literally all day long,
Literally,
and just keep feeding these things to you, because I'm learning as we go. But we do like to wrap this. But I think you definitely fall into our category of we need a part 2.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
Need part 2. It's not a want, it's a need. With that said, though, I can't thank you enough for joining us today and sharing your history and your stories, and your experience and speaking to the connections, exactly like what this show is about. We try to educate, we try to build bridges, connect people to the different parts of the industry, and having someone who pioneered so many things like that in here, I genuinely can't thank you enough, and truly appreciate you joining us here.
Yeah,
Definitely.
my pleasure. It's always a pleasure, as you know.
so much fun to talk about it all and just discuss it. Really,
We'll get you signed up for episode 2
tomorrow morning.
It's so nice of you.
Yeah, we're gonna record it right after this.
Yeah.
It's so nice of you to give me the opportunity. I love
Anytime.
it.
Hey, don't forget, I promised you some ride-alongs. I'm going to start booking these visits to the gas division.
Oh, you're gonna sneak him in to say goodbye?
Yeah.
Listen, Mike, you can go with Ted to all the old locations. That's great. But if you want to go do real ride-alongs, come with me. We'll go to nice places, okay? We'll go to Florida and California. We'll go out west. We'll go to the Grand Canyon. Me and you will go together. You can go to Binghamton with Teddy. Yeah.
As soon as they get a vaccine, I'm ready to roll. Okay?
All right.
Let's go. Sign it up.
Hey, thanks for joining us, Mike. We appreciate
Thanks, Mike.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Always
Good
a
seeing
for joining us on Connections for Life. As we mentioned pre-show, what a great interview.
Absolutely.
One of our longer ones. Pretty special.
But just a great guy.
Mike's a good guy. Yeah, I mean, as Ted said in the intro, I've known Mike just as long as I've been here, and he's always just been a really gracious, awesome person to know and to work with. And I think all the people that have worked with him will probably tell you the same thing. I mean, he went out of his way to be just the best possible supervisor and ambassador for the industry that he could. So if you didn't get that out of our 39.5 minutes, maybe we'll get to part 2. But I mean, Mike's a pretty special guy, and the industry is very, very lucky to have had somebody of his caliber.
That's the guy you aspire to be like when you're young in the career, like us. Really, I know you guys are a decade ahead of me, or 2 in Chad's case. But
yeah, that's old.
Yeah.
In age, not wisdom, in age.
Yeah. But honestly, I look older than him, so it doesn't matter.
Hey,
Well, so
I just wanted to note before we move into another section of this, I believe, episode number 27 is also the first episode I have not worn a hat for at all.
it's because you got a haircut for the
Well,
first
that was
time.
also 3 weeks ago, though.
Yeah, well,
I got a haircut 3 weeks ago. Today's the first time I combed it.
your head looks bigger. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
It just looks that way. Can't
Give
change
it the donut rotating in the background.
Stop it. Here comes the Jimmy's.
Why don't you give us an update there, one of you two, on what we got going on?
Go ahead, Joe. You go.
Yeah, so as we said last week, all the registrations are up to date for the UPSCO Expo. We have everybody kind of locked in, and looks like we're trending in the right direction. So please go on to upscoexpo.com. All of the courses are listed there. You can register right off of the website, and we look forward to having anybody and everyone. It is free, and it will remain free, and we're just excited to be able to put this together and make it happen. We've been working really hard at it, much harder than we thought it was going to be, but we're getting there. So
I want to be clear. They've been working really hard at it, much harder than they.
It's all right, Ted.
Not me.
That's all right, Ted.
Everybody has a role, Ted.
Everybody's got a role.
Yeah, I got a buttered roll. That's about it.
I just wanted to say, man, there's some really good presentations in there. Check them out. Sign up. It's still a little bit far away. I think what we're going to do is try and every week, maybe do something on the intro and talk a little bit more about it. And each of us talk maybe about one of the tracks like that we have, like that we're monitoring. Yeah. I think that would be good at the beginning because I don't know if anybody ever makes it to this part of the show. So
I know I don't.
We had some great views on Mike Hickey last week, though. I'll tell you, our numbers pumped up through the roof a little bit.
That's because you posted it finally.
Is your door up? Is your door up yet?
No, but he built the wall in the basement. The door's tomorrow.
The door's tomorrow.
The door's tomorrow.
For those of you that don't know, every now and again when we're talking, that door falls over because one of Ted's dogs busts through it.
Or his kids running.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So nice pants, Ted.
Nike.
Setting those up.
This is a pop party on the bottom. And
yes.
you have two mismatched brands on, which I'm disappointed in you.
Adidas and listen.
He's representing. And Under Armour. He's covering all the bases. Yeah. Wow. Maybe when Dak gets on, he can push one of them for it.
Absolutely. All right, well, we're getting off the tracks here. Let's close this out. Another great episode. We continue to like, subscribe, share,
please,
across all your platforms. Please, we appreciate you guys, and thank you for the opportunity, fellas.
Yeah, I still want to do the pumpkin carving thing too. So
we gotta do that
next week.
Next
sounds good to me. I don't even have a pumpkin.
Connections for life.
See you guys. Love you. Bye.
Love it. Bye.